Good morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Alero Edu and this is Sunrise.
I'm Ayo Makine. Good morning and welcome to Saturday morning. So, have you had your cocoa this morning?
No, I had cocoa.
Cocoa with akara?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I can imagine.
I'm a Nigerian, a proud Nigerian.
I'm not protesting.
Yes, I must stress it. Benny. Yes.
It's not, as Tony would say, not be quarrel.
Yes.
But there are so many things always calling for attention, as you can imagine. And it's been quite an interesting week. I don't even know where to begin. But, of course, good news, the PIB has been passed.
Yeah, and the first time I saw that news item, the first question I asked was, which version?
Well, it's been between 13 and 20 years, long.
In the making, yes.
In the making, so
yes.
Well, it must have evolved over the years.
Well,
I think, the National Assembly is quite proud of themselves, what they have done.
Well, okay, it's one thing to pass it, another thing to actually implement it. But the sweetest part of it all, for me, was the part about making NNPC a commercial concern. That gladdened my heart.
I'll be very iffy. And I'll tell you why.
Doubting Thomases
everywhere.
everywhere.
See, there is a high level of distrust in the country.
No doubt about it.
Now, so if you say you want to commercialize NNPC,
yeah.
Natural question anyone is going to, because of the level of distrust, is, they're going to give it to themselves. That's the question. Now, so why I am iffy is government has to be very, very careful and as transparent as possible to ensure that people do not have misgivings about that decision.
That people do not have misgivings. Sorry, you can't avoid people having misgivings. Because government isn't doing much to earn the trust of the people.
Oh, wow.
It looks like that deficit is going lower and lower. It's a pity. And when you have a government that wants to regulate, stop the people from talking, how do you trust that kind of government? The antagonism is getting worse.
Well, that's quite a ton of work for the government, to do. And I hope that fact is not lost on them. Earlier in the week, we had a conversation with Laddie Thompson, who said one thing that will seriously quench the fire, at least douse the fire of all of these agitation, unrest, and distrust, is what he called non-violent communication.
Yeah.
Now, non-violent communication is essentially saying, stop using threat language, just be as persuasive as possible. And I also remember, I think, one SAN, I don't remember who it was now, you had that conversation with him as well, and he was talking about the fact that, look, government needs persuasive communication so that people can own the process and all of that. So, yeah.
Don't fight the people, win them over. That's
Absolutely.
What he's saying, right?
Absolutely. So, the PIB is passed. There are two commissions coming, then a upstream commission, the down and medium stream commission, NNPC to be commercialized. Next thing is how far, and how soon, so that people can take ownership of it.
Well, it's just been passed, so let's just keep our gunpowder dry and wait for things to begin to unfold.
Well, that's one, and I... What?
The matter of our population, it keeps cropping up, but nothing, in fact, we don't hear that anything is being done towards reducing or, well, yes, we have to do something about our population because that news item about all these organizations recruiting bandits, it's worrisome. If a child sees a future, he's not going to allow himself be used and be, used as cannon fodder.
So many things come up there, Lero. You remember the comment of the Sultan of Sokoto, and no less a personality, saying that, as far as he is concerned, from all he could see, the North has become a very, very unsafe area. And he said that, and he's not the only one. Certain experiences that people have also point to that. And that's in the Northwest. He is in the Northwest. It's in the Northwest that, according to the investigation by, a newspaper in Nigeria, that these things are happening. And it is not even new, because part of the reasons, research also shows that the things that, that makes people go into banditry and all of that is poverty. This fact is
lack of job.
Yeah, I mean, this fact is not unknown to government. The question then is, what are we doing about it? And unless we take that on, even the governor of Ekiti State, who is the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, also said the same thing. High-level poverty, high figures of unemployment. Those things are not lost on us. Question then is, what are we doing? And how are we even carrying people along?
Trader money.
I didn't hear what you said.
I didn't say anything.
Better. So there you have it. So the issue of population, there are so many things tied to that. Just was it yesterday? It was out in the news that the Minister of State for Health said Nigeria still ranks highest in the global figures of maternal deaths, with 512 out of 1,000 live births.
That is more than 50%.
That is more than 50%. And he said that the one way to reduce maternal deaths will be family planning. It will reduce it by at least 30%. And well, it will do more than that. It will also perhaps help to reduce population figures and all of that. And that's where he also talked about some medication that you can, give yourself. I don't know how, some form of family planning medication or dose or something like that.
But you and I know that family planning is a very touchy topic in Nigeria. But we forget that the days of a family, a husband and wife having 8 children, 10 children, 12 children, those days are gone. Because, first of all, how are you going to educate them? Or don't you have plans to educate them? How are you going to feed them? I mean, we were talking on this program, I think 2 weeks ago, and saying that food is so expensive that in the market, they're now selling yam in slices. People can't afford to buy a tuber of yam, and you have 10 children to feed. How, in heaven's name, do you intend to feed them?
We need to get that memo to the rural areas. Yes. I mean, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we need to get that memo to the rural areas, to local government levels, the ward levels.
What about the guy who paraded his 4 wives in the National Assembly? Is that the local level? And I think he also was touting the fact that he had 26 children or something like that.
I hereby rest my case on that matter.
Thank you very much.
Just for your information, the Nin-sim linkage has been extended till July 26. And what's interesting is the question that I asked is, exactly why is this happening now? Part of the reasons that a number of journalists investigated to find out was, look, perhaps it's because of some back-end technical challenges of the, there are some hundreds of agencies, private sector people signed up to perform the activities of linking the NIN to SIM and all of that. So how are they able to do it? Some would say they recruited people who would be paid maybe 30 naira per person that they help to register. It's a private area.
Yeah.
It's you're a private sector practitioner, and this is not like some product that you are selling. It's just a service you are rendering on behalf of government. So who is paying the private sector people? 30 naira, so Alero, you register 10 people in like maybe 2 weeks. Because, as far as people are concerned, you are not a reputable person. There isn't enough communication out there to say,
my agency
about
and
your agencies
agencies such as mine.
Maybe you register, you know, the entirety of your registration is like maybe like 20 in a week, and you have like 3 or 4 people that you recruited. Each one of them gets 30 naira. So how much are they going to take home? How much incentive is that for them to take anything home? And then so people are asking the question, do they have enough funds to get done the things that government expects them to do? And in terms of even syncing the data from them to the National Data Bank,
Yes.
the NCC or wherever, the question is, what kind of facility are they using? Are they able to do that? Maybe that is why, I don't know. So government needs to, at least the relevant agencies, needs to put the word out there so people know exactly what's happening.
And these agencies are duly authorized.
Yeah, because if you link from your phone, as organizations have said, perhaps that helps. But how about those who don't even know to do that?
Yeah, another thing I want to raise about this NIN registration is that when you go to register, they actually ask you for an ID card. And they will not use your office ID card. They ask for a voter's card, a driver's license, an international passport.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Yes.
You want to register, you want to sync your NIN.
I want to get my NIN.
Okay.
Because I sent someone to go and get NIN, and she was sent back because she didn't have any form of identification. So because I have an office, I got my office to do an ID card for her, showing that she worked for the company, and they still wouldn't register her because they wouldn't accept that ID card.
So if it's an underage person who cannot get a voter card, cannot get a driver license, okay.
Maybe we should get further clarification from the agency in charge of this, because many people still haven't got their NIN, forget linking. That is step 2. They haven't even got through step 1 yet. So maybe we need to get further clarification so that those who haven't been able to get their NINs will know exactly how to get it.
It's very, very worrisome, and I hope that government recognizes all these things, because it's not just going to go away. It's just not going to go away. They have to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to start today's program by examining the separatists' agitation. All kinds of pockets of agitation in various parts of the country. We're going to look at all that and the reasons why these agitations seem to be multiplying.
And I hope that whoever needs to pay attention is. A second topic today would be dealing with post-harvest losses.
We can't afford that. We need food.
I mean, the United Nations is, working with us on that. The Vice President was in a conversation with the global agencies trying to ensure that we have, what we know to be food security. The question is, are we carrying the people who really go to the farms along?
Well,
do we have enough infrastructure to sustain all of that conversation? But that's the second topic this morning.
And then we'll be talking about youth development, knowing the danger signs.
It's a topic I'm looking forward to. I'm very, very excited about it, because if we don't plan for the future, we have plans.
Don't feel.
If we don't plan for the future, we have planned.
And of course, we keep saying it.
Yeah, an 18-year-old today, in 10 years, will be 28. We're talking about the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Determination year is 2030. That's less than 9 years. Okay, average 9 years away. So, the 19-year-old today is going to be what year at that time?
And don't forget that we have more youth than we know what to do with.
So that's that. And then we'll be talking about an application, newly launched. It's called Tribe Niger. What does it mean? What can it do for you? Can you get a job through it? I don't know. What are you looking at?
And then we shall close with the Artist of the Week segment. And I promise you, this artist is a very interesting one. He's one that you will want to listen to.
He or is she?
He's a he.
He is a he.
He is a he.
You don't want to know.
And it's got something to do with that popular thing on TV.
Yeah, something like Niger Idol.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
We'll be back after now.
Amen. 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 Timmy Dakolo. Bebodie. Now, let's get the program started in earnest. Along with political and economic grievances, separatist agitations are driven by a strong feeling of collective victimization. Hear, hear. Some political analysts have noted that successive governments' responses have been generally intolerant and combative. They say the government generally lumps the Igbo separatist movement together with Boko Haram and the militant Yoruba group, the Odua People's Congress. Well, that's neither here nor there. We're going to look at all this and analyze all this and find out why there's so much agitation around the country. Many of them actually asking for separation. They don't want to be part of this marriage anymore. But of course, we always say that we are better together. We are stronger together. Are we going to be able to convince everybody to stay? Big question mark. Now, to help us analyze all this morning, I'd like to welcome to the studio a legal practitioner, Mr. Tony Dania.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Viewers.
Okay.
And joining us via Zoom from Ibadan is Emmanuel Remy Ayede, Head Department of Political Science, Professor of Political Institutions, Governance and Public Policy at the University of Ibadan. Good morning.
It's not loud.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that we'll get to that.
Okay, all right. Well, let us start with what we have right now. Mr. Dania.
Yes.
North, south, east, west. Agitation, agitation. Is the answer separation? Or is it just a call for social justice? What
Well,
are your thoughts?
Yeah, we've been having agitations even before independence, when our nationalists agitated for independence. So that means we have a right to agitate. But when you start using violent means of agitating, it becomes an offense to the state. But right for agitation, we have a right to protest, we have a right to, hear our opinion. And then the cause of agitation for separate states or sovereignties is because of injustice, and when some group are not satisfied with the way the center is handling matters, and when you are not also satisfied not only with the economic situation, the insecurity situation in the country is also amplifying the call to maintain separate state. But that is not the solution. I think the general cause of agitation for separate states is social, political, economic instabilities and perception of collective groups that they have been shortchanged in the management or sharing of activities in the country. And then the suspicion that the center is not treating people with criminal tendency with equal approach. So this led to some group coming up to say, look, we'll pull out of this marriage called Nigeria. So the solution is generic, but it has to start somewhere, somehow. The center, the power at the center is too much. Then most of the persons that would have joined in the call for a balanced situation in the country in protesting the seemingly tendency to favor certain group are benefiting from the rot in the system. And then I'm talking of people who are either, well, let us say they are elected because they went through an election, and then those who are appointed, and then the governors, the members of both state and national assemblies, the ministers. One, almost all of them are interested in personal aggrandizement, personal profit with their cronies. Almost all of them are benefiting from the system the way it is. So when they come out to pay lip service, to protest, to balance the situation, inwardly they still cooperate and plan to subvert people who are also protesting.
Mr. Adeli, is this anything to do with our laws? Is there a conflict of interest in the laws that makes these, gaping spaces so obvious?
Well, our constitution was forced on us by a military regime, and we've been working on that. I mean, that has been the constitution of the Federation, and that constitution vests so much power at the center. But beyond that, if you look at corruption, for instance, that most people are complaining about, it's generic. It's not tied to one particular agency or ministry. It's everywhere. Everywhere. Port, police, fire service is the one that you hear about, that you know about. There are so many you don't hear about, that you don't know about. But every part, there's serious corruption. And then how do you solve it? If you pick one, EFCC is overwhelmed. So, but if every minister, because if you are appointed, the tendency to please the person that appointed you is there. The Attorney General, for instance, he wants to impress the president. But if his appointment is, if his removal is constitutionalized, not at the, ease of the president, the same thing, the Accountant General of the Federation. The same thing, the Governor of Central Bank. So if you want to tackle this, it's generic. So if every minister wants to do his or her work very well, this will go to some extent to address issue. Because we all go to the president, he appoints people he believes can do this job. Why are we not talking about them? Then we also have the National Assembly. If you become a senator today, even the society want you to be a billionaire within a short time.
Let's take the discussion to Professor Ayede. I'm going to put the same question to you. Agitations everywhere for separation. Is it separation we should be talking about, or social justice?
I understand we're not he's not ready for us now, so perhaps because we had a little bit of issue earlier, so maybe that's what we're still at blame.
Okay, can I take you up on one of the things you raised earlier?
Yes.
You said the center was too powerful.
Yes.
How do we go about reducing the power in the center?
Well, there is an ongoing constitutional amendment process, and a lot of regions are protesting. They don't want to participate. At the end of the day, an amendment is done. We still have a constitution. I've advised those who listened to participate in it. We need to deliberately diffuse the powers at the center and make the presidency, give the presidency or the central government lesser power. Let's run through federalism.
But Tony, we've been talking about this forever. Devolution of powers, devolution of powers. That has been our song.
Yes, but
yet nothing has happened.
Like I said, few persons who will even come out openly to say, yes, let's run through federalism. Back inside, they are benefiting from the system as it is. And they will make effort to, subvert the plans. So that is the problem we are having. The persons who are, for example, if those who are in authorities in the East did not cooperate, they won't arrest Nnamdi Kanu. If those in authorities in the West did not cooperate, that invasion of Ugbo's house wouldn't have been done. Because, let me tell you, when OPC started as a private agitative group,
Gani Adams.
Fashewu started it, Gani Adams joined, and he wanted to be, it was violent. Later, what happened? The traditional rulers and those in authorities in the West called him, they waded in, and the OPC became positive. In most streets in Lagos State, even across the country, the COPC being employed as security operative. The aim of the OPC is what Igboho is also doing. You see, why it will continue like this? Because those who can go into, who can make money easily, who can go into administration, are the ones that are encouraged by those who are already inside, who will say, we don't want this, it's too strict. This man, if he comes in, he will expose us. So that dictate who comes into the government. Few persons. So the only way, and then the federal government should not toy with this. With respect to the late President Yaradua, he had an intention, a positive intention, to intervene in some areas. It's unfortunate that he died. Until we have such leaders, and by the way, a tree can't make a forest. If you have a good person as the president, good in quote, what about the governors? What about those he's going to appoint as ministers? What about the members of the State and National Assembly? So, how do we resolve this? Honestly, I think the solution is the body language of those in powers goes a long way. If, for instance, the president spoke recently on Arise, if he has been talking all this while, even if we quarreled with some of the things he said, it would have gone some ways.
Well, you know, you began by, I mean, from the question Alero asked you about true federalism.
Yes.
We have a federal system, and people are still calling for true federalism. So, is that saying that the federalism we have is false?
No. We are not practicing it the way it is practiced in other climes. America is a federation. And then you see that the states, they have their powers.
So the reason for not practicing federalism the way it ought to be practiced is what? The Constitution?
The Constitution.
Okay. Let's ask Professor Ayede. I understand that we have him yet now. So, Prof, to the question that Alero asked you before we took that break, do you agree, or rather, what's your take on the various pockets of agitation for independence, so to speak, all over the nation? Is it, to you, the answer, is it separation all the way they are asking for it, or necessarily a call for some social justice?
Well, I think the issue that is on the table is the issue of fairness in terms of how those in authority, especially at the federal level, and not only at the federal level, at the state level, deal with Nigerian citizens, broadly speaking. And as you know, citizens often organize as groups, and it seems one of the salient groups has been the large ethnic groups, especially the major ethnic groups in the country, who think that they have sufficient clout to be able to stand alone as independent countries. But if you look closely at the issues at stake, you'll find that whether we remain in Nigeria or we break into multiple countries, the issues will not go away. And the earlier we start addressing them as they are, rather than hoping that, that by breaking into smaller units, we'll find some small Eldorados where we can find expressions. I think injustice is a human problem, and the way to go about it is to fight for justice, is to demand for fairness, and to see how we can do that within the ambit of the law. If we talk about the structure of the federation as something that is unfair, federalism is such a system that enables every segment of the various units of the society of this country to be represented at the national level. So, and there are channels through which we can then direct these grievances. I think people have become impatient. People find it difficult to walk through institutions. They think that by taking the laws into their hands or looking for shortcuts, they can easily achieve their objectives. And that is one of the bane institution building in Nigeria. So rather than put pressure on their representative in the National Assembly or in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, or those who are even ministers to do the right thing, they are busy organizing outside the system and demanding for so-called self-determination. And we see a situation, even those who are leading the groups, their credentials are questionable, and we are not even sure the extent to which they can represent even the grievances that we are talking about. And when you look at what is happening around the country, even within these groups, it leaves a lot to be desired. It is even less hopeful if you look at what has happened in other countries in Africa where self-determination has happened. If you look at the Sudan, for instance, or you look at places where you have homogeneous communities like Somalia, you don't really think that self-determination demands is really the right way to go. I think we should fight for justice, we should fight for fairness, we should ask that the rule of law should observe, and then the principles of federal character, which has been stated in the Constitution, and other measures that are designed to improve inclusion within the government system should also be pursued, rather than this demand for self-determination.
Now, Prof, Tony here in the studio raised the issue of devolution of power. If power were indeed devolved and the states worked like they should work in a federation, do you think some of our problems would be solved through that?
Well, I think that we must distinguish between problems that are caused by federalism and those that are not. In Nigeria today, federalism has become the lapdog, what you blame for all vices and all problems of society. And many of these challenges that we face here are not even linked to the structure of the federation at all. But since it's politically correct to blame everything on federalism and then claim that once we restructure, everything will be fine, people easily, join the bandwagon to blame federalism for everything. They talk about it if non-federal societies don't progress. There are societies that are unitary states and they are doing better than Nigeria. And if you talk about the federal system, we have a non-centralized system. It may not be a perfect federation, but it's difficult to argue that we are not a federation. Because as we speak, one of the fundamental things about the federation is that the federal government cannot abolish any state. And that the state has its own sphere of operation and authority, which the federal government cannot take away from it. And that's the minimum required of a federal system. And that's what we have. But we have all kinds of governance challenges. We talk about the abuse of the rule of law. That cannot be attributed to federalism. We are unlucky to have leaders at the national level and many state level who don't believe in the public interest, who don't act in the public interest, who abuse power, who don't even understand what political power is supposed to be used for. There's a lot of self-aggrandizement going on around the country, and there's really little concern, for the condition of ordinary citizens, especially those who are disadvantaged and dispossessed. So if we don't bring all of these issues to the table and find ways of means of ensuring inclusion and addressing the problem of poverty, then we will not be really touching the issues at all. I think most of the agitation for federal restructuring, if they are properly channeled, would have achieved a greater measure of transformation that we have recorded since 1999. And where the issues affect the elites directly, you see they have actually amended the Constitution, they made some changes in the rules. But when it comes to issues that directly would address poverty, would want and jobs, they are a little hesitant. And that's the crux of the matter. And that's why
just one moment, Prof. There was something here you said earlier, and I'm just curious. If the laws already make it clear that we have a federation, just as you said, the Constitution is clear about that, the principles of federation are enshrined in the Constitution as is. It sounds like you are saying essentially that our main problem is not the Constitution. Is that correct?
As far back as the political bureau of 1987, they made that point very clear that the problem is not with the Constitution, is the operators of the Constitution.
Okay.
Now, let me make this point clear. In many federal systems, there's always the question, should we change the rules or should we change the players? That tells you that there's always some dilemma between what is wrong with the law or what is wrong with the operators of the law. Now, you don't even know what the law says until you test it in the courts. And that's why when we started from 1999, a lot of issues were taken for granted. For instance, the power of the federal government or the president to usurp the allocation to local government. Until the law said, no, the president has no such powers. There's also the issue of removing the debts or the servicing of debt for states directly for the federation account without reverting to the state. The court also said that the federal government has no such powers.
Okay,
so we need to
Prof,
look at this.
Yeah, so if that is the fact, it is clear in print, as we say, in black and white. And you have also said that if it's not a problem of the laws, then it's a problem of the players. We don't change the game, we change the players. But the same constitution, so many people believe, makes it very difficult to change the players.
You know, federal constitutions are rigid. Whether I say it's the constitution that makes it difficult to change the player, that is even, in fact, arguable. Because if you look at the nature of politics itself, there's always this challenge of how do you demonetize politics. And it's not a thing peculiar to Nigeria. It's just that those who have access tend to do everything they can to hold on to it. And those who don't have access have to fight, you know, to get a space within to operate. And that's why within the political system, we have civil society organizations, we have all of these groups that should agitate for inclusion. But inclusion is not the same thing as self-determination, saying we should break the country. And I think that's actually the problem we have in this country, that anytime we have a grievance, the first thing we do is to say, let us, you know, dissolve the country. We have similar problems in the United States. And you saw what happened on January 6th, when people in the United States started behaving as if they are in third world countries, going into the Capitol Hill. Would you say that what has happened there is because of the Constitution of the United States? Nobody has said, let us go and change the Constitution of the United States because people went to the National Assembly, the Congress. This Constitution is not working. I think we should deal with issues as they arise and find ways of means of putting them on the table until they are addressed, rather than at every point in time we talk about renegotiating the union, we talk about, you know, dissolving the country. I think that's some measure of irresponsibility, even on the part of those of us who are not in government.
Okay. Well, Mr. Daniel, you want to say?
Yes, I want to say something. I agree to some extent with what Professor have said, but you see, majority of Nigerians are not happy. Majority of Nigerians want Nigeria to be united. Majority of Nigerians want Nigeria to be great. Personally, I have hope that Nigeria will be great. One way or the other, this issue will be resolved. And then Nigerians are hardworking persons. Nigerians are not difficult to govern. I take you back to this analogy when we had Ebola. We were able to manage Ebola by ourselves. Orientation, mass orientation. That means if we want to do it right, we can do it very well. The moment we have a generic reorientation, things will work out. Now, the structure, we have three-tier government. We have the central, the state, and the local government. Are you telling me that they are working the way they are supposed to work? We are all aware. The problem is that there are issues going on. Only few come out to speak. A lot of people are afraid to speak.
Some blame for the third tier that you talked about. Some blame the Constitution. Some say that the Constitution makes the local governments like an appendage, like some administrative offices of the state.
You are correct on that. But quickly, let me say that when he said you can only know what the law says except you go to court. With respect, sir, it's not correct. You go to court when there's a dispute. When you said, no, this is not what it said, this is what it said, that's why you go to court. But generally, we know what it says. So many disputes don't go to court because people will agree, yes, that's correct, that's what it says, let's do it. It's only when there's a disagreement and there's a dispute. So now, we remember what the president said about the local government when he said he's aware. We have been aware of that for a long time. who is not aware that the states have pocketed the local government administration. Now, in a true federalism, the local government is a government, look at the name, local government, state government, federal government. It's supposed to be a jurisdiction of its own. But what happened? The local government chairman keeps running to the state headquarters to take instruction from the state.
Is it to take instruction or to do what the Constitution says? Because
No,
they have a state joint local government account.
That is wrong. The local government is supposed to have its own account.
Yes, but the Constitution makes that clear.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Prof is right to some extent that the people, but like I said, the people in government would deliberately want to subvert positive changes or compliance totally with the Constitution.
My apologies. I really want this, to be useful for many of us that are listening, for many people that are listening to you right now. So if that is the problem, it's like the Constitution is the game now. But then there are those who play the game of the Constitution. Now, is it the fault of the Constitution? I'm asking you the same question I asked Prof. Or the fault of the players of the game?
The two. The Constitution itself, we cannot run away from it, need amendment. The Constitution places so much power on the central government. Everybody is aware of this. That has to be addressed. That is one. Two, I have said this before, that the people, the problem we have, and with respect, I want to start blaming those we praise as nationalists. They went abroad, they are aware of the development there. We had money. People plan ahead. You plan for 100 years. Do we have that plan? We had money. If we would have been having regular lights, like Germany and the rest. Look at countries that when we had independence had serious issues. They have gone ahead, advanced beyond the position we are. So they didn't plan.
But there were plans.
The plan is you went abroad, you saw metro line. When did we start introducing metro line here? You went abroad, you saw regular light.
In the Second Republic in Lagos.
Sorry, sir. Sorry.
I'm just trying to make these, really practical. You remember that in the Second Republic, there was that thinking by the government of Lagos State, at least.
Yes.
To have a metro line
There
system.
was a plan.
There is a plan.
They even started to
execute some of it.
To execute it, yes.
I'm only mentioning that as one of so many things that they are supposed to have done.
The point I'm trying to raise, Mr. Daniel, is there are plans. For instance, there is a plan to eliminate malaria in Nigeria since 1948.
Yes.
There's no
So there are plans.
So this comes back to what I've said, that people in government, people in authorities, they deliberately take steps to subvert this plan because of personal aggrandizement. So until there's reorientation, which goes back to what the Prof have said, that we the people, we need to, be reorientated so that we think of national development. Many Nigerians don't have that. But it's easy if even 50%, for example, if there's regular light in Nigeria, which will not take much. But if you look at it from the historical plan on developing this, providing light, you will see that it is being deliberately, sabotaged. If they will have regular light, if the education system is planned such that you have no choice, you must do primary school. Then if you notice that you have flair for technical activities, you go for technical training. Do we have that? You see a lot of dropout education. Then military. At a time, Nigeria was one of the best in infantry in the world. How did we develop it? China too was one of the best, but they developed. Look at Americans came to Nigeria to trace an American that was kidnapped. They were able to zero in. What does it take? Technology. Why can't we get there? Where is the plan? So what I'm saying is that if we had this plan, because we keep blaming the administration, the head of the administration, we've forgotten that government is static. Government remains. It is people that come in to navigate or administer governments or governance.
Okay. Professor, let me take you back to what Tony had talked about earlier in his submission about the local government. Ayo had raised the issue that the local government is more or less an appendage of the state government. If monies for the local government, bearing in mind that the local government is the government that is nearest to the people and is therefore supposed to have more impact on the lives of the people, if the local governments were getting their funds directly, I know that this has been tested in court and it had been ruled that the monies should go directly to them. Has there been any change in the workings of the local government since then? Prof, you'll get a chance to respond to that after this break.
Well, I think we're here now. Prof, the question, I don't know why. We were having a conversation about how strong the local government system was in the Third Republic. But, you know, going to that conversation, Prof, about what the Constitution says and how it should be activated, especially concerning the local government system. If the local government had first-line charge directly to their accounts, how significant would that be in stemming the tide of these separatist agitations?
Well, it will not be significant. That's not to say that I'm opposed to giving revenue directly to local government. It's just to show that we have done it before and we saw the consequences. And that's where we should take lessons from. And the situation in Nigeria should not always be reviewed in terms of either or. And I think that's 1999 to 2007, monies were given directly to local governments. It didn't make them more accountable to the local population. What it simply did was to empower local government to begin to organize, to relate directly to the National Assembly rather than the state government. That's why the state government became very, very upset with local government and tried whatever was within their means to take over control of local government. And what the means which they were able to do that was through the local government joint account. They went to court, and the court said that they had power, that the revenue for local government should not go directly to them, which the Constitution provided for the state joint local government account. And that's where the problem that we currently face is resting. If you look at when local government received allocation directly, they went to National Assembly to extend their tenure from 2 years to 3 years. They had this very powerful outcome that were mobilizing resources contrary to what the ordinary people in their localities wanted them to do. So we need to look at that very carefully when we are talking about making local government grassroots government. And secondly, if you look at the federal constitutions across the world, local governments are never uniform across the country. And local government are supposed to be organized according to existing communities, natural communities, if you want to use that word. So that if you have large cities, you have municipal government. If you have small settlements, you have things like counties. So in many countries, we have multiple local government. In fact, the only place where you can find local government recognized as the third tier of government, apart from Nigeria, is probably Brazil. And even in Brazil, it's not organized the way we have organized our local government. So really, there's need for a much more radical change in the way local government is perceived in Nigeria today, rather than and we cannot also do that without talking to the state government, because it is the state government who want local government to be what they are today as prostrate government. So we need to, in order to strengthen them, we need to talk to the governors so they know exactly what the challenges that we are facing with security and the way local governments should be reorganized to achieve that. And one of the means, of course, will involve probably the amendment of the Constitution in a number of ways so that local government can be free. Okay. Whether that freedom, of course, will have to be defined.
Okay. Well, so, Mr. Daniel, as we wrap this up now, the separatist agitations are not just going to go away unless they are addressed. Yes. How do you suggest that this be addressed? Who should be doing what? You talked about the collaboration of state governors in some regions with security agencies at the federal level. So what should be done by whom to stem the tide of these separatist agitations and have a more inclusive Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Separatist agitation is caused by general injustice in the country. And then when there is injustice, there are methods we already know of addressing injustice. But the problem we have is that those in charge of redressing issues raised are not helping matters because they belong to the system. That is the problem. And that is why you see recourse to other methods of protesting against injustice. For instance, jungle justice, which is wrong, agitation. And then the agitators now resorted to using violence. We saw the violence in the south, in the east. We saw the one, the mass protest. And then, like Prof said, the persons leading these groups are also questionable. For example, the East, that is made of qualified person, highly important person, persons we respect, intelligent person, industrious persons, and you say it's Kano that will lead them. And then you talk of the Southwest, where you have technocrats, Prof is there, and you say it's Ugo that will lead them. But because the system is such that addressing it properly, Gani Farini has been fighting for justice. A lot of other persons have been doing it. Falana is on it too. We've been talking. If we talk and nothing is done, we are back to square one. Look at NSAS. It's a spontaneous, reaction to accumulated anger. You understand? So, to avoid all this, one, the office of the Attorney General. For example, there are so many solutions. We are just suggesting this. The removal should be constitutionalized and it should be separated, Attorney General Minister. Then, Accountant General, Governor of Central Bank. The local government, and you see the federal government and the state government usually select the judgments that they want to obey. That is very wrong. When there is a judgment, obey it. With that, you are helping addressing injustice. Okay. Insecurity. Do you know that when the president spoke, like I said, the last interview, to some extent, there was some level of calmness in the East. If he has been coming out like this, the logistics you will put into checkmating security will be reduced. So insecurity should be addressed, economic development should be addressed, political development, the constitution, I think, should be amended. Then elections, the process of electing persons to represent us should be addressed such that you don't keep bringing back the same set of persons and you keep complaining about them. So if the elections remains as expensive as it is, we will continue to have a recycling of the same persons. Yeah. So I call on the federal government still, it is still the federal government, to encourage, because you see, it is those in charge of government should stop looking at the immediate benefit of whatever they do now.
Okay. Mr. Tony Daniel, a legal practitioner who joined us in our studio in Lagos, and we had the head of Department of Political Science and Professor of Political Institutions, Governance and Public Policy, University of Ibadan, Professor Emmanuel Remi Ayede, who joined us virtually. Thank you very much for coming to share your insight with us this morning. Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Make sure you stay with us.
I sincerely can't even imagine this next topic, continuing. Because, we're talking about post-harvest losses here. On the average, Nigeria loses $9 billion. Make that naira, that's 3.5 trillion naira. That will definitely take quite a chunk.
Ouch.
Off of our...
That's a whole lot of money.
Of our debts. Annually, that is it, to post-harvest waste. And that's according to...
In a country that is on the verge of famine and starvation
and that's groping for food security and everything like that. So that's according to the FAO. Now, so Nigeria wastes And post-harvest losses are two problems that continue to plague the agricultural sector in the nation. Reports say 1/3 of food, that's about 1.3 billion tons produced globally, worth about $1 trillion, is lost during post-harvest operations every year.
Wow.
Now, that's about 14%. The FAO puts food losses at around 14%.
Globally.
Yeah, beginning from the post-harvest stage to the end, excluding the retail stage, of course. So, and with the present challenges that we're having as a nation, the federal government talking with the United Nations and a number of other organizations all over the world about food security, the insecurity challenges, challenging food security and all of that. We have this conversation this morning on how we deal with post-harvest losses. Sulaiman Arigbabu joins us this morning. He's Executive Director, Header Resource Center. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we also have Paul Ilona, who is Country Manager of Harvest Plus Nigeria. He joins us virtually. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ilona. Okay. So let me.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let me begin with you, Mr. Arigbabu. First of all, have we even been able to track the reason, the sources of these losses?
Oh, okay. So this statistics is speaking to post-harvest loss. That means after the farmer has done detailing and taking care of the nurturing the crops, and then harvest it. What happens between that harvest point and the table and the market and all of that? Now, it's not a true value in this real sense of it, because when you look at the fact that yes, $9 billion is lost to what we couldn't use, but how about the value that we would have gotten if we were able to convert that loss
So that's
to
the
other
loss
things that
itself.
yes.
So the profits in the value chain is also lost.
Is lost. And the fact that then we needed to use other money to now import to augment for
You
that
add that
loss.
amount as
so
well.
when you had that, the value is actually astronomical. So and unfortunately, this is something that's come with us for quite a while in Nigeria. However, I need us to also remember, because post-harvest loss is as a result of a number of things, our infrastructure deficit, our poor implementation of some of our policies to support farmers. But in 2020, something has happened to us, which is the COVID and the lockdown. And so
making an already bad
many
situation
farmers
worse.
could not even harvest at all. And then something that has been on our plates before that we didn't deal with has become a bigger monster, is now insecurity. So, and that has escalated since 2020 and it keeps escalating. So for that reason as well, farmers are also additionally not able to go either to plant or to harvest. So the problem is huge.
Okay, so let me take Mr. Ilona's opening comments on this matter as well. So I was thinking that maybe we already had a lead on the problems. Are there some of those issues that you think are responsible for this post-harvest loss that Mr. Arigbabu has not mentioned?
Yeah, good morning once again. I think the issue of post-harvest losses in Nigeria is very much hydra-headed. And if you look at the business environment in Nigeria, we always want to take advantage of gaps in the system. And by now we were hoping that the fact that, we're not able to utilize all our foods should have provided a great opportunity for some investors to come on board. If you look at the type of gaps we had in the past, in the telecommunications sector and other sectors, you saw how the business community came on board and plugged in money into the sector, and those gaps were to some extent eliminated. So the question would be, why is the business community in Nigeria not taking advantage of that gap to enhance their returns on investment? It then means that there are some challenges in the system. And until we remove those bottlenecks, we'll continue to talk about food insecurity, talk about food losses, and all that. Like I said, it's really hydra-headed. And this morning when I was discussing with a colleague, the point was for a consumer, for example, who bought Gary, say at 5,000 naira 3 years ago for 50 kg bag, and is buying the same Gary now for 26,000 naira, right? How much incentive does that actually become for an investor who wants to put money into the sector? To a large extent, I think that there are some basic things that we ought to have done to bring in investors into food processing, so that the level of losses to farmers will drop. Unfortunately, we've not really done that very well. It's either these investors are not able to get NAFDAC numbers to ensure that their produce can get into the market. It's either they're not able to get supporting finance to encourage them going to that investment, or sometimes it is the fact that the investments are often at distance from the source of raw materials.
It's interesting, Mr. Ilona, that you mentioned all these things, but I'm particularly interested in that angle about the investor. And I think we have one joining us this morning. Pelumi Aribisala is co-founder and CEO of Cattle Foods Nigeria. Thanks for joining us this morning. How significant would you say the infrastructure challenge is, especially in the food sector?
Thank you very much. It's nice joining you from this part of the country this morning. I'll say that the infrastructural challenge in the food sector is a big one. There is a lot of infrastructural gap, and when you look at this gap, it's part of the contributing factors to the post-harvest loss that the country is experiencing. Nigeria is a country that produces a lot of raw materials in the agricultural sector. For instance, Nigeria is a country that produces cocoa but imports chocolate. Nigeria is a country that produces a lot of cassava, a lot of other crops like that, but then you have the finished goods, which is what gets to the consumer end, being imported. So, and when you also look at the insecurity, the power situation, the epileptic power situation in the country, all these factors have contributed to a lot of infrastructural gap. You find investors that are not really so keen or willing to really address this infrastructural gap in order to be able to arrest these post-harvest losses and other things that are driving food and nutrition insecurity in the country. So the infrastructural situation in the food sector is a very big one. All
right, my apologies, Alera. Yeah. I just wanted to ask Mr. Aribabu to look back for a bit. I remember, I think it was in the 90s, 80s, 90s, where we had what they call DFRI, which was essentially to address the challenge of road infrastructure. Directorate for Food, Roads, and Rural Infrastructure. I'm wondering what happened to that initiative, in your opinion. And I'm also aware, I'm pretty sure you are as well, that there is such a program as Rural Access Mobility Project, which is being supported by the World Bank and a French development agency. So I'm wondering, if we have all these going on, and I'm also aware that the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing is doing a lot of work in terms of trying to cut down poverty by working on so many roads to give access to farmers to shorten the trip between the farm and the table, just as you said earlier. If we have these plans and we still have these challenges, then what exactly is the problem?
Yeah, thank you. You know, earlier we talked. You initially asked what were those factors, contributing to post-harvest. It's like telling us the same problems of Nigeria, listing all those things that afflict Nigeria. But particularly to address the concern you just raised, is the fact that when you have a 100-volume problem that is increasing geometrically, and you are dealing with one volume or two, you are going to continue to have deficit. That's one. So we have a huge deficit that our meet-up plan is not measuring up. Secondly, it is not just to build new facilities or infrastructure. We also are not maintaining the ones that have been built. So it's like, oh, government has come to do it for you, and then government leaves it. We have given you your share of the national cake. Now, one, the road is not, these days, no longer as standard as used to be, except for specific rule, like, for instance, say, Apaposho, the expressway, where government thinks, okay, let's give this to a private sector company to do. So you find most of the roads they do in rural, in the first place, the contracting process already compromise the standard that you are going to get. So a road that's supposed to, last for 20 years with, periodic maintenance, 2 years is broken down. Now it's difficult for those people to call for government to come out because they are not going to be in government's thinking for a while to come. So you have that. We have a lot of agencies, we have World Bank programs, we have state government's intervention in terms of roads infrastructure, but it's not working because the level of integrity of the things we do these days is really, I've really taken a nosedive. So you have all of that problem on one side. Then you have the issue of logistics, haulage. So people who are to help you move from one end, from the farm to the market. One, these are just people who, they can, the same way they will move waste material, they will move iron, will move plank, is the way they want to move food. It's the same kind of vehicle, which is not appropriate. So between farm and market, you have lost a percentage. Then when you move to market, they just dump. There's no facility to collect and store for the period it's going to be sold. So you have all of that, the layers of problems you are having at that level. So one, the people who are going to be moving, for instance, need a level of education. You need investors like Dr. Lona was talking about. You need investors who will come into the space, understanding the problem, knowing the kind of facilities required, ready for the kind of investment. My only fear is that with the yes, it is good that private sector take advantage of the opportunities, but if we allow them to fill the entire value chain of providing those services, and government not doing its own bit of providing some basic infrastructure, they are going to load the costs on the product, such that what comes out at the other hand
for the consumer,
you rather eat from China than eat local.
Well, isn't it the same thing that's happening in the telecom sector?
In the telecom sector, yes, it is, but perhaps the craft and the need for telecoms is not like that for food.
You're right.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Mr. Ilona, we talk about agric often on this program, and each time we touch on the aspects of storage and the value chain. And yet, every single year, when tomatoes, for instance, are in season, we still hear that probably more is thrown away than is actually eaten by Nigerians. Is this rocket science? Can't something be done so that these problems are taken care of? Because if we spoke about them 10 years ago and we're still talking about them today, then there's something wrong.
I very much agree with you. This is not rocket science. It's just the fact that I would say, unlike in many other sectors, the agri sector has not enjoyed what I would call a very coordinated attention that will bring it to the level that it will truly add value to this nation. Yes, every year we talk about agriculture, but in fairness to our investors, I have a number of cases of investors who went into processing, and because of lack of raw materials, they're out of business. So at the same point, all of us are shouting that farmers are not able to supply raw materials, which will, to a large extent, lead to wastage. Investors in food processing are complaining that they don't have access to raw materials. It means we need to look inwards and truly understand what the challenges are. I was discussing with some of my colleagues in the banks, and the point then was, have you asked or have you tried to find out to what extent the support you are giving to an investor in the food processing sector, to what extent will that drive the value chain where he is? I want to find out why around Kano we don't have the government spurring, encouraging medium, small scale investment into the production of tomato puree. Why wouldn't we look at, say, Benue State, where a lot of fruits get produced, and we still have to move fruits from Benue State to the canning factory here in Ibadan? Why don't we build the whole sector of food processing into small enterprises that will come together to provide a mega solution? I think it's all about our strategy. Right, and I'll keep saying on this channel that when it comes to propounding theories, we are really very good at that. We have so many policies that should be supporting agriculture today, but then they've not been implemented to the point that they add value. And I want to defend investors in Nigeria to the extent that it's not the case that they don't want to put their money into the sector. It is the fact that the enabling environment that will ensure or guarantee the investment isn't just there. And even when it's there, it is not monitored. So if you ask me, I'll say it is time that both at the federal, state, and private sector level, that we do the walking and stop the talking. There are very simple approaches to reducing post-harvest losses. And one of them would be to see what we can do to bring the value chain, articulate the value chain, such that one component does not have to go through very high level logistic requirements. And that, unfortunately, is what they make our farmers to go through. I'm aware of one factory in Ijebu-Ososa that gets cassava raw materials from Kogi, from Kwara states. Why wouldn't you have losses? We're about to have losses, right? Now, the question would be, if Kogi is the hub for that raw material, why wouldn't we have put that factory there? Or why wouldn't we have put some other smaller scale factories that will help to reduce that drudgery and supply some near finished products to the other factories? So I think it's only a question of understanding what the value chain is and how we can work to make it a lot more efficient. And somebody made it very, very clear. I think the fact that the average Nigerian consumer welcomes everything, we end up pushing all our inefficiencies to them. I mentioned earlier on that the price of Gary 3 years ago was 5,000 naira for a 50 kg bag. Now it's 26,000 naira, and the consumers are not complaining, even though they are paying from their very meager resources. You look at salaries, minimum wage, some 5-6 years ago, and it was above $100 for their wages. Now the same minimum wage has come below $50, and you have food prices that are hiking up. Yeah. How do we manage this? Because at the end of the day, the farmers produce and the demand isn't that high for them. And it will eventually lead to food wastages. So like I said, it's really hydra-headed. But I think it's really time that the relevant agencies, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Federal Ministry of Finance, I would say NAFDAC, which is really very, very central. A number of the investors I spoke with this year have complained that the inability to get permits, to get their NAFDAC numbers, have not encouraged them to invest in that sector. So how do we make that sector to become a lot more effective? Okay. What are the bottlenecks?
Okay, okay. Mr. Aribisala, you are the CEO of, is it Carter Foods? What has been your experience as an investor in this business? And what exactly does Carter Foods do?
All right, thank you very much. Carter Food, let me start by saying Carter Food is an indigenous food processing company in Nigeria here that uses staple foods to address malnutrition. Carter Food uses bio-fortified staple foods, the vitamin A cassava, vitamin A maize, vitamin A sweet potato, to produce value-added food products to for all age groups towards addressing food and nutrition security challenges. As an investor in this food sector, I'll tell you that it's been a very, very tough Herculean task going up in the food sector. The food sector in Nigeria is faced with a lot of challenges, starting from access to affordable raw materials, access to quality raw materials, going to logistic problems. The food sector is such that you want to do everything by yourself, of which, in the real sense of it, you are not supposed to be the one to do everything in a situation where the environment is enabling enough. You're supposed to just focus on producing the food, production of quality and nutritious food, of taking raw materials from farmers, large-scale farmers, smallholder farmers, and different categories of farmers. There should be somebody that is into logistics that takes care of that. There should be somebody that is into marketing that takes care of that. But you find out that in the Nigeria food sector, the company, the CEO, the SME, the MSME, or even the large-scale companies are the ones that do this for themselves, because you cannot even guarantee that the food product that you have produced in your own facility gets to the consumer in the right state. So for you to be able to guarantee this, you have to be involved in everything. And when you are involved in production, you are involved in marketing, you are involved in logistics, you dissipate unnecessary energy.
Is that a problem, Mr. Aribisala, of policy or strategy, or is that of the program or the operational modes of the organization in question?
No, I don't think it has to do with the organization in question. I think it's more of the environment where these organizations function, where they work.
And this organizational environment, you're talking about what in particular?
For instance, the Nigerian food environment, the food sector, the Nigerian environment. The environment is not enabling enough for actors in the food sector. And I give you an example. If you look at the very multinational food companies, you will realize that some of these companies even have to create their own logistic arms to be able to ensure that they move their food, their finished product efficiently to the consumers. And if you bring that to the SME, you will also realize that the SME that does not have access to that finance or fund, in quote, to play like the big players, have to also look at a way to have this their own logistic taken care of. Now, if the environment is enabling enough, there has to be some form of control. There has to be some form of organization. The food sector in Nigeria suffers from a lot of disorganization.
Okay. Well, Mr. Ariwabu, we have a few minutes left. But let me ask you this question. And you referenced it earlier when you say that we only calculate what we lose from the harvest himself. We do not also factor in the losses of the profits in the value chain. Now, economists will tell us that when we waste or lose food, it's not only the food that we lose. We also lose all of the things that went into the production of it. The water supply, the land, the power, capital invested, and all those things. Now, that poses a problem because Nigeria is a signatory to AFTA, Africa Free Trade Continental Area Agreement. And how much of a threat is this challenge to farmers and investors like Mr. Arisala in Africa, especially in the light of signing?
I will focus it on Nigeria, and it's a big problem. You know, I alluded earlier that if you allow the private sector to do everything along the food growing and distribution and processing, they have to load the money on the food. You know, Adire, our local fabric. You know, if you can't afford it, you can buy Adire prints from China, which is cheaper. And China is already doing gari.
I was shocked.
We are going to a situation where it will be easier to buy a China gari than to patronize the locally grown one. So you can start to paint the picture. We are going to a situation where, you know, we had a similar situation between maize growers and feed millers. The locally grown maize, because of the environment, because of all of this myriad of problems that we talked about, and we didn't even mention climate change, the locally grown maize is expensive. So government will say, close the border to maize so that local farmers and investors can make their money. But once that is done, feed millers, people in animal production will start to cry because they cannot afford the locally grown one. It's much, much expensive than the one that is coming from outside our shops.
Why?
Yes, because we make those who are doing it here, they are a government on their own. Just like you are a government in your house, you provide your water, your light, security, everything. If government don't do its own bit, and I mean federal, I mean state, I mean local government, if they don't do their own counterpart bit and then allow investors to ride on that and fill the gap, if we expect investors like Mr. Aribisala to do everything, it will affect the price of the things they are producing.
Are you saying government is the one responsible for food security or food insecurity in the country?
Oh, we will start with government. You can't blame me as a person. We will start with government. Then we will then lead down to each and every one of us. And you know the challenge with this government is that communicating with citizens is not its best area. We know that there is a problem coming. We are adults. You need to let us know that there is going to be a challenge of food security based on the things I've analyzed earlier. Okay. You need to get us to be part of it now so that everybody can start to see how they can play to prevent the calamity from happening.
Now, just before we go, so I think we're about to start winding down. Mr. Ilona, if we had freight trains that could move food from the farms to the cities, would that make any difference? In one sentence.
That's one of the enabling environments that will be required to reduce the price of raw materials and ensure more ready access to our investors in the food sector. So my good friend Ariba Bubo has actually made the point. The government has to play its role, and it's all about ensuring that we have an enabling environment. Okay. But then we've not even looked at the road network. We are looking at trains. So I really think that the key thing is to ensure that we knock up the value chains, right? There's no point supporting an investor in food processing who is distanced away from his raw materials. So how can the government in implementing the finance and support to investors how can the government, in ensuring access to seeds and all that, bring all the key players together? Okay. As long as the food processor is 100 kilometers away from the raw materials, we have problems addressing raw material spoilage. In parentheses,
Mr. Elona, but trains will be cheaper than transporting the food on the roads, wouldn't it?
Trains will be cheaper.
Thank you very much.
I speak as a Nigerian.
Over to you.
Well, the issues you've raised, Mr. Elona, perhaps also points to that conversation by the Africa Development Bank, special and agro-industrial processing zones, and the various clusters all over the nation. Let's hope that helps. But we have to thank you very much for being a part of this conversation this morning. Paul Elona is country manager of Harvest Plus Nigeria. Pelumi Aribisala is CEO and co-founder of Kata Foods Nigeria, as well as Mr. Sulaiman Arigbabu, Executive Secretary, Header Resource Center. Thank you so much for your time and thoughts.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so Sunrise is back in a moment with another topic. Do stay with us.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us this beautiful Saturday morning. Being a youth in Nigeria comes with a lot of pressure. Tell me about it. There's the thinking deficit to immoralities, forced lifestyles to pride, bribery to corruption, ignorance to poverty and hunger. Nigerian youths are in one way or the other victims of these active dilemmas. So, how can we get the best out of the Nigerian youth in spite of all these things that we have just listed that they have to confront? How do we know the signs when our youth are going astray? Okay, these are all questions we're going to ask our panel this morning, who join us virtually. It's my pleasure to welcome a leadership consultant, Mr. Linus Okorie. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here this morning.
And we also have a social engineering practitioner, Joyce Daniels. Good morning, Joyce.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yes, I mean, being a youth in Nigeria today is not an easy task. With all these things we say confronts them. How do we begin to deal, or how do, let me start with Linus. You are a leadership consultant and you've been working with youth forever, young people forever. How do you tell them to deal with all these issues that confront them?
First thing I'd like to say is that I was only 19 years old when I started working with young people. And over time, my experience has really taught me that majorly, the young people are actually in charge of their own destinies. Yeah, because most of the times the policies are not really, helping young people as much as they should. So in that sense, young people will now begin to develop their own way of self-discovery. First thing first is self-discovery. The journey for self-discovery is a personal responsibility for young people. It's not the parent, it's not society. Young people must first of all, actually discover themselves. It is in the process of self-discovery. Once self-discovery is made, the journey for personal development begins. And this is my personal story of personal development where, there's no kobo in your pocket, but you have vision, you have things to accomplish, you want to be more. So instead of, going to seek for the money, you seek for how do I prepare myself as a young person.
Perhaps the first challenge would be, at what point do we even get the youths to that level? At what point do we get them to see things that way in the light of all kinds of pressure that surrounds them? How do we get the youths to that?
Necessity is the mother of invention. Necessity. When the environment you are staying in is difficult and challenging. One of the things that works in your mind is, how do I become different even within this environment? How do I stretch? How do I make it within the system? In fact, every young person right now, if you look at their hearts, there's anxiety, there's worry, there's uncertainty. But one of the things I want to advise young people to do is not to allow that uncertainty of this environment impact on them. That's why they need to take, charge of themselves immediately to discover who they are. And we have a lot of, thank God, it's an era of technology, it's an era of globalization where young people can easily, at least, have data to be able to, on their own, find their path.
Okay.
Like never before. Once young people find their part in what exactly they are connected to do, they can do well. Then they can begin to stretch out and reach out to people, who have done what they are, are about to do.
Okay.
And once they begin to reach out that way, guess what? It's difficult, but at the end of the day, if they keep at it, stay at it, and are consistent over time, they will build something great out of the endeavor.
All right, Mr. Daniels, 3 things stand out to me. Mr. Correa has talked about self-discovery, and then the word inclusion and mobilization all come to me in terms of this conversation we're having. Is there a nexus?
Definitely, there is. I failed my math in SSCE.
You're not alone.
Now, I passed it in GCE with an A without cheating because my teacher, Mr. Amadi, said to me, Joyce, math is easy. He said it to me every day. Math is easy, and he made it look easy until it became easy. So in mobilizing, in self-discovery, and in what's the other word you mentioned?
Inclusion.
Inclusion, we, the parents, the media, the leaders, will make it seem easy to the youth. We'll tell them we can, and then we show how. That's our responsibility to them. But when we constantly point out the troubles, the challenges, the difficulties, guess what? They find it more difficult to mobilize and to feel included. If we're going to create a system of inclusion for young, for women, for people with people who are underserved, we are going to make it seem easier. And when I say we, I mean all of us. Does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, I mean, in a way, because what I was thinking was, okay, so if a child if a young person, for instance, has not been able to discover themselves, how can we mobilize them enough to include them in the development process for a nation? Now, I also, those facts that Alero talked about in the opening, they are real and gaping. They are glaring. Everyone can see them. So sometimes, to an extent, it's a little difficult to talk to someone who is unwilling to listen simply because the person feels underserved. So how then do we begin that mobilization?
Well, I have an 18-year-old son. So let me talk about how I have been able to get him into the space. Number one, I speak his language. I communicate in language that he understands. So as it were, I come down to his level. I don't speak above him as if I were better than him, bigger than him. So I try to reduce that gap between us versus them, which is what a lot of youth feel, or how a lot of youth feel. There is us, don't talk at me, talk with me. So we'll speak in their language, okay? Then we also show empathy, that we understand what their situation is, because guess what? It's not, what's the word? It's not, the situation is not, there's a word I'm looking for. It's not exclusive to them alone. We, the older ones, have the challenges as well, and youth across the world. So we don't also want to make them feel like they are in isolation. It is all of us, and we are fixing together. So come on board, bring your intelligence. So we let them also bring solutions and make it clear that we are listening and we can work together so that we breach that chasm between us and them.
Mr. Corey, how much is it, I don't want to use the word fault, of the family unit? I am feeling that on a large scale, we are the ones who have failed our children, which is the reason why we are talking about all this. Where does all the pressure come from? It comes because of the society which we as adults have created, in which the youth find themselves. They didn't create that environment in which they feel all this pressure that we're talking about, that drives them to drugs, that drives them to wanting to commit suicide and all that. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, so my engagement with young people over the years, I found out that, you know, you have families who do not encourage young people to do what they love to do, to pursue the courses in life they want to pursue the dreams that they want to pursue. Most parents, you know, will insist that young people should do courses that they have no business with. And imagine if a young man doesn't want to be a doctor and his father is forcing him to be a doctor. Most of the time when they get into the university, they are lost completely. And they just want to obey these parents, right? Because it forces them to, and so young people do not have the capacity most times to speak with their parents in a democratic way, you know, whereby, you know, they can state their minds. They always force them, shut up, you can't talk, that type of stuff. And so if young people are not given the opportunity to, you know, experience love in their homes and the capacity to be able to speak their minds, so they move into their chef and begin to pretend, you know, from home. And then the second element will also be the language that we use. You know, most of the time, you know, parents use curses. We threaten them, you know, but do you know that, you know, the moment, you know, young people start going through difficulties at the family level, and we use words to encourage them. Words are powerful. Oh, you can make it despite the challenges. In my own case, I had a situation whereby my father died when I was in class 3. My mother had 9 of us. I was left in government secondary school where, you know, stretching to see how I could make it by myself in a world that was so difficult. What I did was that I had to find deliberately other mentors, people in my space who acted as you know, my parents or whatever, who could encourage me. I can tell you about 5 of those people were useful to my life at that stage. I had one who will put me in the library, in his library, and I will be reading and stretching and growing. Now, if the family systems are failing, mentors can also fill in those gaps, you know, as the case may be. Sometimes we must identify within our systems when our children are failing, and then we can reassure them that, hey, wait a minute, we allow you to do what you want to do. The moment a parent starts allowing our children to do the courses that they want to do, and then when they get into the university system, some of them want to study medicine, they are given microbiology to study. You know, forced admission, and they go there and they have no interest again. So how do we correct this? The only way we can correct this is that, you know, our family system will be the first place for leadership development. Parents must begin to seek knowledge on how to raise leaders in their homes. Any parent that wants to raise a great, you know, leader or great children or great leaders must begin to seek for courses that would enable them become great leaders first. Because you can't what you don't have. Most of the time is leadership by example. It's the power of examples. When, you know, parents begin to inspire by what they do, how they handle issues, the children will learn faster than you can ever imagine. But if you have, you know, parents who are inconsistent, you know what I mean? And what happens is that at the end of the day, the children, most of the time, will not be able to go far. Okay. So when parents miss it, the social system must not miss it. And that's why it is the responsibility of government to not create a social system to ensure that they capture these young people at a very early age and begin to inspire their minds to growth and productivity.
Okay, Ms. Daniels, I'm pretty sure you'd want to react to a thing or two that you've heard Mr. Okorie said, but if you can add to whatever you want to say in response to the fact that on the one hand is the function of family, but you would also agree with me that Nigeria as an entity is in a hurry for the youths to pick up the mantle of leadership, right?
Yes, I do agree with you 100%. I also agree with my brother Linus, whom I have known since his struggling days as an older teen. And I would say we turned out pretty well. The family is that start, yes. To add to what Linus said, the ability to speak life and speak positive can never be overemphasized. I say this because children hear from home before they hear from anywhere else. Say Nigeria no dey work. Say Nigeria no good. But if they constantly hear Nigeria can work, will work, if we do ABC, then they know what to do. The country is in dire need of young people to get into leadership. So that bridge is to say to the young ones, which is what people like Linus and myself are actively doing, talking to young people, including people like us, because we are young, and saying we can, and this is how. We can, and this is how. Yes, we know this is what you've heard all your life. Now look at it from this other perspective. Look at it from this other perspective. See what we can do here. See how we get involved. See how we negotiate. See what we need to learn. There are all sorts of institutions right now teaching about leadership and governance. Let's get involved. Let's pay fees. Some are even free. Let's get the information. Let's get in. Then we are also teaching courage and confidence. Because you might know a lot but not be able to do much because you lack the confidence and the courage. So we're teaching young people about how to develop confidence, how to develop courage. There is something called the power distance, where you can't even have a conversation with your parents because it might be misconstrued as talking back. So it extends to school, where you can't question your teacher. And in fact, if you write anything different from what they taught you, they go tell you, say, nah, lie, this thing you did is wrong, right? And then you get into society and you're saying to somebody who is your leader, may I have this conversation? I'm like, how dare you talk to me? Am I your age? Am I your mate? So we need to teach confidence and courage to say, show up. Then we are teaching social skills so that we come in without fighting. The youth won't win by fighting the older people, because there is no us against them, in my opinion. We will get there and speak together as one. We're Nigerians first before you're young and I'm old. We are all born Nigerians, so let's speak as one.
But you would agree, Ms. Daniels, that to a large extent, if you can't give what you don't have. Many of the parents that you're talking about themselves are products of the same experiences that they are living out. So if that is the situation, consequently, you can imagine what will be bequeathed, so to speak, to the young people, to their children. So for such, for want of a better word, emotionally damaged young people who are groping for identity, to reference what Mr. Okorie said the other time, and really, really have everything to make this nation great, how do we begin to, put them back on the straight and narrow?
It's not a lost cause. There is healing. There is healing of hearts. There is the constant work of exposing them to possibilities. We've heard so many stories about people who felt everything was over, but when they saw better opportunities and they continued consistently to give attention to what could be, guess what? They were able to achieve more. So it's an ongoing work that will never end. So we are not only teaching the young people, we're also teaching the parents, because these relationships will always be. So we continue to speak, we continue to advocate, we continue to teach, we continue to train, coach, mentor, and we will not relent until we get what we seek. Because if we give up, then we lose completely. So in spite of it all, we continue to move. I call it move to the plus, move to the northeast, move to that place. When I say northeast, I don't mean Nigeria. I mean the place where between the x-axis and the y-axis, where you all have the plus sign on the graph, we keep moving to that direction where we can make it. How can we make it? We keep finding solutions, and then we keep showing them how we are winning already, how we are winning in entertainment, how we are winning in fintech, how we are winning in industry as young people in enterprise. So we will also win in governance the moment we begin to give more attention to it. We will.
Okay.
We will.
I'd like to meet Mr. Amadi. Maybe I'll also brush up my mathematics. But let me take Mr. Okorie. People see, and that's a great influence on leadership. I don't know if you'll agree with that. The young people see a lot. It's one thing to hear, but it's another thing entirely to see. And they see a lot of things. They see a lot of injustice, and they hear those affirmed and all of that. Consequently, they of course, you have seen spontaneous reactions in the nation. 2012, fuel price protests, end SARS, and so many others in pockets of areas across the nation. So young people see these things, these inequalities, and sometimes fuels their reaction. And you have talked about the function of government. In 10 years, the 18-year-old will be 28. What are the things that we need to do as a nation, talking about government now, whether federal or state, to ensure that we map out a path for this 18-year-old who will be 28 in another 10 years, and hopefully be able to contribute positively to the nation?
So, I run the most comprehensive leadership center in the country. And just a few weeks ago, an ex-senator of the Federal Republic walked into my center with his son and his wife, and they all took a leadership course together as a family. Now, at the end, during the process of that course, the young man was elected the president of his class, and the boy was just about 17, 15 or 17 years old. And that gave me the type of inspiration that I say to you today, that showing the child how to go is how is the bigger way to go. Secondly, as a nation, nations of the world nations have invested heavily on the youth leadership capital of their citizens. If Nigeria must make progress in 10 years, there are 4 specific areas that I would like Nigerian government to do big things. First will be they give every young man in this country a skill. Not a 2-star skill, an 8-star skill. Create an infrastructure system that can give many of the young people who are not captured in the elite zone, who are in villages and communities, left out completely. Give them 8-star skills on technical education. Technical education. The plumbers. We should export young people from Nigeria to work in plumbers but there has to be 8-star skills development process for them. Millions of them can be trained in 10 years, and they will fill the entire West African region, and it will bring income for Nigeria. Second skill that is important for every young person is leadership skills. I was selected by the American government in 2013 as an IVLP. Every year, American government spends $180 billion to invest in different strata of leadership development in that country. If we don't teach the young person leadership skills, how to take responsibilities, how to have a vision, how to pursue vision, how to network, how to all the critical skills that are important to give him confidence and reassurance that despite of the environment, even mind leadership is an important course where despite of the pressures, the person can take leadership and do what is right. Despite of the peer pressure, the young person can lead his mind, lead himself, lead others, and pursue tasks. That's the second skill. The third skill is enterprise. We must teach young people that within this difficult environment, they can smell business opportunities. And there is a way to do business and do it right in an environment like ours. So those who are gifted to do business can thrive in that direction. The other element we can teach young people is love for nation. Love for nation. Anybody, any society that does not place value on teaching young people what a nation means to them, the value of their nation, the value set, by the way, what is the value set of our nation? Imagine if until we're able to even develop it to a point where every Nigerian will appreciate that there's what is called merit. There's what is called service. Service is important. Politics is not for personal pocket or aggrandizement. Politics is to serve humanity and make life better for other people. If we don't teach these things from a place of example, trust me, we will not be able to build a nation that will be sustainable.
Mr. Corey, I was kind of sniggering when you were saying politics is for service, and that's what you teach these young people. How much example of that are they seeing to actually believe you?
You know, when I was talking to you about, there's something called mind leadership. Mind leadership is the ability to be able to deliberately, create systems in your mind that can interpret something differently. For instance, things are not working in the country. What do? You say, despite of the fact that things are not working, I will do it differently. Despite of the fact that I'm seeing some people stealing public money, but because of my mind leadership training, I will say that is not the example. And I will show leadership. Does that make sense? The ability for someone to say, despite of the fact that this person hates me, I choose to love this person. That is strength. That is powerful. Despite of the fact that some of our politicians are stealing public funds, when I become one, I will not steal public funds. Because you're teaching them what is right, what is proper. And until we do this type of investment, forget it.
Okay. Well, Mr. Corey, when you talked about all those values, the only word that comes to my mind is national ethos, and a number of people are wondering, do we even have one yet? We have unity and faith, peace and progress in the nation as our motto, but how?
Words.
There are words. Are they ethos? Are they strong enough? But I mean, you've talked about youth development. Let me ask Ms. Daniels about youth engagement. Some would say that a major challenge we have in this country is that of communication. The largest demographic in Nigeria are young people, youths. So the question then is, and we have talked about the need to engage the youth population, to bring them on the table, as you said, speak their language. I mean, you've given your example as a parent. I don't know if government will be speaking the same language to the young people in the nation, the young population, youth population, as a parent would to a child 2, 3, 4, or 5, or even 10 or 20. So in terms of youth engagement, engaging the youth at the various levels of government and various tiers of government, what is lacking and what should we be doing?
What is lacking is the understanding of the need currently, this present dispensation, this present government. And when I say this, I speak generally. There are individuals within that are different, of course. This present leadership doesn't seem to show understanding for the need to include youth and speak their language. What can we do? Ayo, we can prepare for 2023 and be more intentional about the kind of people we let get into leadership space politically. When we are holding and insisting on media debates, for example, we will have to demand that if you're going to run for office to lead on any strata or lead in any strata, we want to hear you. Come, Channels is organizing a debate, everybody come here and speak, and if you don't come here, we will find a way. We have to find a way to say INEC or INEC. If they don't come to attend this debate, we can't let them be on political parties, because we need to hear them. We need to let them tell us what the plan is for the youth. We've not done that in the past, have we? We've not found a way to institutionalize it. My question to you right now, Ayo and Channels, is can we make it happen? Can we sign a contract with INEC, a social contract to say everyone who we are going to let get on that ballot paper must be someone who can speak to us about the plan for the youth? Because for this present dispensation, I'm not sure what we can really do. They have shown constantly that there is no willingness to create that. So we will show empathy, we will speak the language, but we'll also choose the people who are willing to make this happen. Does this make sense to you?
Well, it does make sense to me. I don't know if it makes sense to INEC.
Thank you very much, Joyce Daniels, a social engineering practitioner, as well as Mr. Linus Okorie, a leadership consultant and an old friend of the house. Good to talk to you again, Linus, and thank you both for joining us this morning. Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation in just a moment. Do stay with us.
All right, so you're wondering, who is that? That's boy.
Laycon. Not Laycon, not Laycon.
Laycon. We'll come to that one later. Well, right now we want to talk about something, of course, which you just saw now, Tribe Niger app. And for that conversation, we have the convener Advocacy for One Nigeria Initiative, Mr. Kola Abiola. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
First of all, what gave birth to this?
I started this like 12 years back and put pen to paper 10 years afterwards. And the whole idea there was like, we went from what I felt was a perfect situation, perfect election, and we have gone to totally imperfect. And I felt the way things were going, we were losing ourselves within our ethnic groups, our differences, and our diversity is being used against ourselves. So I felt it started off as Tribe Nigeria 10 years back, and then over time it evolved to Tribe Niger. And 2.5 years ago, we started working on the app, and we're here today.
You know, it's interesting. I'm sorry. I had a conversation one of these days here on this program, and someone, you were here, someone dichotomized between Nigeria and Niger.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
For good reason, yes. When we started, it was Tribe Nigeria, because that was Nigeria then.
Oh, it metamorphosed into Tribe Niger.
Now, that's because what we found out over time is that the youth have developed an ecosystem called Niger. So it's they're Nigerian, but they try to coexist outside of Nigeria, which I think is totally impossible.
In a place called Niger.
In Nigeria.
Which is virtual.
Virtual. So in that environment, in that ecosystem, they don't know the differences. They know themselves, and as long as they can work with themselves. And that ecosystem is 70% of the population. So we felt, let's speak to them directly, let's adopt their language, and try to appeal and see them to the need to come together to save the country as a whole.
Okay, naturally, the next question is, so what is Tribe Niger?
Tribe Niger is a social platform that is designed to bring as many of our youth as possible together, to discuss our differences, discuss our issues, and hopefully along the line come up with our own solutions.
So that's our local Facebook kind of thing?
I'm not sure it's actually a Facebook as such. But it's an avenue to let us begin to bring that 70% of our 18s to 35s together and see that they can make a difference collectively. It's an avenue for us to begin to see that we may be from different parts of the country, facing different issues, but we have one common thread, Nigeria. And at the end of the day, it's all about leadership that's lacking. So let's see what we can do to change that.
So since this application is targeted at raising conversations around a diverse range of issues, I'm wondering how you intend to galvanize or aggregate thoughts and recommendations to improve public governance.
I think first we have to speak. everybody has to know that we understand and we see the same problems. We see them from different perspectives, but the problems are still the same. And in doing that, we can collectively, hopefully, get to critical mass, to a point where we think we can collectively come together under one umbrella and turn the democratic process on its head. I'm hoping with this, we will be able to at least cut our skin in the game, get involved. And with our numbers, and you know that your neighbor next door is also part of this discussion, we will come together and form a community, and that community, I believe, will make a change politically going forward. It'll help tremendously to do that.
Engaging people with it is definitely a consideration going back by all of that conversation. But then, how do we begin that?
We've started that already. We have over 10,000 on the app today. It's with time we would understand that it's not an e-commerce platform. With time we will understand that it's an avenue to chat and discuss issues. With time, I think we begin to understand that we need to drop. It's not an app that you follow each other. We chat around the issues. That's what it's all about. We chat around the issues. Hopefully from that, we will begin to create leadership also. From that, the AI would track everybody's participation. And hopefully, the more you participate, the more you get brownie points. You will go from bronze to silver to gold to diamond. And at that point, you'll have your own platform, and you can moderate your own discussions. So we hope with that also, amongst us, we would begin to develop the next crop of leaders, politically and otherwise. Yeah.
This is interesting. Okay, now let me try to paint this. You know that recently the federal government, did something with Twitter.
Yeah.
Stakeholders in the polity have been calling for regulation of the social media space in view of what they consider, or rather what is considered, serious threat to Nigeria's sovereignty and security. So, talking about this app, don't you think this could elevate some of the fears that the concerned stakeholders expressed?
I don't think so. I think the more we can discuss, the more the freedom to speak, the more the differences can be bridged. That's one. Two, a country our size, with the economic powers we have, the country our size, with the intellectual capacity we have, domestically and in the diaspora, should really have alternatives to every social media platform. There's, even as a national security issue, we should have alternatives to Twitter, alternatives to Facebook, Instagram, all that. Countries our size, not even our size, and countries that have as much intellect as we have alternatives to that. So in the day that you think you shut down Twitter, what are alternatives? So I don't think they should see it as a threat to national security. It should be part of their national security policy to have alternatives to that. And mind you, like I told you, I've been at this for a while. It didn't just pop up because Twitter was banned. We have been at this, developing this app 2.5 years in total to launch. We just so happened to decide we're going to launch it June 12th, and at that point, Twitter was banned, but it had nothing to do with it. We just believe we should have our own homegrown platforms, and this is probably one of those. Yeah.
Okay. How do you intend to self-regulate?
Oh, good point.
So that your users do not broach certain guidelines that may get the app into trouble. And so it becomes like what's happened to Twitter.
Yeah, it's a very good point. It's a couple. There's the national bit, the government bit. It's sensitivity to participation and participants on the one hand, because there's some things, we're a very diverse country, and some sensibilities have to be accommodated. So the AI is built into that. The AI will pick up, artificial intelligence designed into the app will pick up all these things. And we will not necessarily censor, but will regulate
and pick those things up.
Contents.
Content.
And delete if it is
it will
found
warn you
to be.
first. It will warn you. You will get a warning from the administration, and then if it continues, you'll be deleted and banned from the thing.
No, I'm not talking about the content itself will be deleted.
Will be deleted, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we built that into the design. And we cater for all sensitivities also at the same time. We want a forum that allows us to express. We're not there to pick on, and that's why we don't there's no follow people or pick people to chat with. No, we don't allow that on this platform. We center all our discussions around issues and solutions.
You know, the question anyone else would want to ask is, I mean, Twitter algorithm is understood. You follow me, I follow you. We have X number of followers, which some people, which have raised the profile of some people to what they call social influencers or social media influencers, and so which they convert into money and all of that. So, if that's not possible on Tribe Niger, then what's the advantage?
Well, everything in technology, you never know where it ends to start with.
Okay.
You have a good idea, you start, and then at some point it'll have a life of its own. You may end up in e-commerce, you may end up in so many things from an original idea. But to focus and get the rules right from day one, I think, is very important now, especially in the age, with what happens with Facebook and Twitter. They can even ban a president, not just Nigeria, but even take Donald Trump off their platforms. So in our own case, let's learn from that and then use that as making sure that we get the principles right from day one, and that's what we're trying to achieve here.
Perhaps the challenge.
But also, we find out that a lot of your influencers, so to speak, and I don't know how best to say this. I've become toxic over the years for the very same reason that it's become a business. So we're trying to also hopefully create fresh people, sort of like what we did in Concord in those days. We took unknown names, gave them an opportunity, and they're all the names in publishing and journalism today. So we want to develop a fresh set of people, bring them into there and let them showcase themselves and hopefully be leaders also at the same time. So that's one of the things we're trying to do here.
You had planned to launch on June 12th before what came about came about. Didn't you develop cold feet when that happened?
No. I'm one never to listen to the noise. I just stick to the objective. The worst would happen that they would shut us down that day, but I wasn't bothered about it. Because if you remember, that same day there was a planned protest, nationwide protest.
Yeah.
I tend to not take advantage. I just stick to my roadmap, and
so it's been launched now?
Yeah, it's launched. We launched it on June 12th at the Yaradua Center.
Okay.
And like I said, to date we have over like 10,000 plus on subscribers. It was 2 weeks now, third week now. We've had over 1 million browsers already on the platform, and it's not quite doing the purpose yet because everybody sees it as an alternative. So we have a lot of people trying to e-trade or e-commerce, but with time we're going to deal with that. But more and more of us are beginning to understand that, look, this is the platform to discuss.
Okay, so what is the impetus for people to join? What's the edge that Tribe Niger is offering? Tribe Niger largely says it's for Nigerians.
Yes,
or no, it's for Niger people. Okay. Perhaps the same way as the voice of Cool, as Cool, K-O-O, is the voice of India. You know, an app, you know, also which I understand the federal government even is on now. So, what's the cutting edge for this one? You know, for Nigerians?
With me involved, everything is political, I guess. So,
exactly.
Because I know that's where you're going.
Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because the reason, let me just make this clear. The reason is, you talked about the commercial edge for those who used Twitter to, you know, for to commercialize and earn some profit and all of that. You know, so that's the angle from which I'm speaking, because some people will say, okay, I have X number of apps on my phone. Why should I add Tribe Niger to my...
I'm not saying that we wouldn't get to e-commerce and we won't get to all these things. The app is designed to be able to do all those things. Okay. But initially, the whole idea, in the present state of security in the country, this present hopelessness amongst our youth, the original initial objective is to get us to talk and understand ourselves and bring as many of us as possible on the platform to begin to understand that we do have a lot more power than we think. Like we were talking about Big Brother earlier on, 20 million voters, youth, 18 to 35, spend 5 billion or so voting. I mean, if you put that to things that could, Nigeria that could change your life, it's an enormous amount of power we have. And I'm hoping with this, I will bring a lot of us together. A lot of us, our kids, junior ones, our brothers, to this point, and then any dynamic progressive out there to the middle, and then we hopefully channel that to changing politics in Nigeria. We have to turn the system on its head. We have to disrupt the whole political system, and I'm hoping we can even achieve this with that.
So we just go to the App Store.
No, if you're on Android, you go to Google Play
Store.
If it's iOS, you go to the App Store, you download, you get an OTP, data.
Okay, there it is on the screen.
Right. Okay. So that's it. So it's pretty simple.
Okay.
And then we start to discuss.
Okay, so
going back to what you were saying now.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not about. It is about politics in a way, because it's going to end up being about politics in a way, because I'm trying to mobilize. You see, like I explained yesterday, there are three sets of voters I see. They're the semi-literate, they're the guys like the NSAS guys who want to see change, desperately want to see change, but don't see how best to achieve that. And there are the skeptics on the side that say, look, nothing good will come out of Nigeria. Any politician that comes is a means to an end. So totally giving up, they're not interested. Now those guys in the middle there, who took those stands, and there's so many of us in this country, want to really see change, but they don't know how to get to that change. I'm hoping with this app, we can show them how to get that change. I have been there before, 79 under NPN. I ran the election, a big part of it, SDP for my father's election. I have been gone through what they have gone through then. I've been failed by the system because we ran a perfect election where I was cancelled. I was prosecuted. I had SSS people raid my house. I was incarcerated. So I've been there. I understand. I've learned from the very best then. Very, very best. The General Shehu and all those people. So I want to bring that knowledge and bring it to the new age and use technology. We used a bit of technology back then, which was archaic today compared to what we have today. Let me put all that together and let me use that to take them, not so much to the promised land, but at least begin to do that and get that change done. If we come together and do this effectively, we can elect 35%, if not 40% of all elective offices in this country off this platform. I know that for sure, because I've been through it. With this, we can drop entry point, the barriers to entry. We can drastically cut the cost of participation and let people who really genuinely want to make a change have an opportunity to do it.
How can this cut the cost of participation?
Oh yeah, drastically, because what it has, if you have 20 million, 30 million on that platform that decide to come together politically, all you have to do is from the tribe, you will know how many people you have in your local government. If you're running for local government chairman, you will know where to start. And the data you get from us will tell you exactly what you need to do and how you have to concentrate. It won't cost you a penny to buy forms. It won't cost you a penny to... You see, the biggest fraud in the whole political process is the delegate elections. I know that because I've been there before. You don't have delegates. Your people, the guys themselves will vote for you. And if they're voting for you, They will vote for you at the election itself. At least 70% of them should. That's what it's all about. You just have to. I've been there, and I would use this system to show you there's a simpler way of doing it. I don't have. You want to campaign in your local government, you don't have to pay any person $1 million to mobilize. To do what? You have your guys on your platform. Speak to them. They'll be there waiting for you. It saves you money. So.
Listening to you right now, and that's perhaps why the NSAS people, for instance, said, look, we don't have a leader. Some would probably say, okay, this man also has a political agenda, and maybe he just wants to use us to mobilize. And you said it earlier yourself that everything about you, because of your name.
Yeah, because the system has been so brutalized and traumatized.
So there is a lot of distrust already, and that's also, likely to play out. So how do you delineate?
What I'm doing now is not, if it was just for Kola to be president.
And by the way, is that also in the plan somewhere?
It's not in the plans, but like I said, everything is political, so let's see how it works out. It's not the objective, definitely not the objective. But just for
the
me,
only thing constant in life is change. So you might change your mind tomorrow.
It's not about me changing my mind. I've had opportunities to change my mind. I never do. Like I told you, I stick to my script. I really do. And everything has to be logical to me. Unfortunately, I'm not sentimental in many ways. I just stick to the logic. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense.
Okay, so, now, I mean, now that we're talking about this, you know very well that leadership recruitment process in the country has always been a challenge.
Absolutely.
So with 2023 right in our faces, how do you think what should be the role of the citizens to ensure, not just to vote, but to ensure the right options of people to vote for? Because sometimes people just don't have a choice.
Assuming that the right options come up.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Over the years, right, we've always been stuck with a system that just gives us two options. A friend of mine just this morning said how did he put it? It's picking between a herdsman and a Fulani. They're the same thing. I don't understand. He put it like that so very crudely, but that's the point. Look, we are forced always to pick the best of the worst.
Well, you know that they are different, right, in terms of.
Yeah, probably. But glucose D and glucose D are just about the same things. Are the same things. Like my dad would say. What? But you see, we should stop being forced to pick the best of the worst. Okay? And I'm hoping with this, like I said, we will create leadership. And if you create leadership, let new people get into the system and be able to be elected. I'm hoping with this I'll do that. And that's my objective, really. It's not good enough to just have the right person as president and then you forget about all the other offices. How do you rule? If you have a good person there, you have the present, or somewhat of the present in both houses, how do you make anything achievable? Let's get as much of us that will want that change. Sort of like what happened in France with Macron's election. Obama to some extent, but more Macron this last election. Totally new faces in leadership. Okay. And that's, I believe, we can achieve this time around.
All right. I think it was we have to wrap up in a few seconds, but do you see any significance to the fact that June 12 is now recognized by the federal government as Democracy Day?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Go on.
Oh, yeah. For me, it puts... That chapter is closed. Because I fought so hard for that recognition. I got the recognition. I wanted the June 12th, the GCFR for my dad. I tried to get other governments to see they didn't understand it. Surprisingly, I never thought it would take this long to achieve, but it did. I wanted June 12th changed. from May 29th to June 12th, I got that. And then we got a bonus, in a way. Not so much an apology to the family, but apology to everybody who voted for that election because they were robbed. So for me, that puts paid to that job.
Okay.
And the next thing I'm trying to do is what I'm doing now from there.
Okay.
That's why I haven't been minister or anything like that, because I didn't want to get involved till that recognition was done.
Okay.
So,
well, we can only wish you well.
Thank
you. Trust that hopefully very soon we'll be back here to have another conversation. Maybe when you hit the 10 million.
No, we're out there to 30 million for sure.
Okay, all right.
That's the target.
That's the target.
Okay. So,
oh, by the way, Nigerians in diaspora.
Oh yeah, they're fully involved.
Okay.
Yeah, because we will have a discussion topic for Nigeria yonder.
Oh wow.
On the app.
Nigeria yonder.
We're on the app.
Nigeria yonder.
Well, we have to thank you very much for being a part of this conversation. Kola Abiola is convener, Advocacy for One Nigeria Initiative. Thank you so much for your time, and we wish you well.
Thank you. God bless. Thank you.
All right, if you can hear that music, it is... Okay, here we go.
Real contemporary music, eh?
Yeah, that kind of music you like?
Well, it's kind of young.
Are you old?
I'm young. So it's our music.
Well, sorry about that.
Somebody has appeared on this program before, and he said he was the chairman of the youth wing at age 64. Laycon. Moshood Agbeleshe. Did I say that right?
Agbeleshe.
Agbeleshe. Okay. Ogbeleshe. Right. Professionally known as Laycon, is a Nigerian media personality, rapper, singer, and songwriter. Well, that was evident in that video. He is the winner of Big Brother Niger Season 5. And he's currently the youth ambassador of Ogun State, Nigeria, and he's been that since October 2020. Laycon, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning. How are you? Thanks for having me here today.
I think we should be asking you that question. How are you?
I'm great. I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm chill. I'm okay. Thank you for asking.
Did he say
how are you guys?
Yeah, he's chilling. You know, his
I'm chilled. Yeah.
You're chilling.
Yeah, yo. So, Laycon, clearly you've been busy, right? So give us a little snippet into how busy you've been lately.
Recently, I just put out my album, Begin, April 30th. I came out with a video, Fall For Me, of the album. The album has been doing great, over 30 million streams in over 25 countries, non-English speaking countries and all that. It's been a wonderful journey so far. I went to Ghana to promote the album. I went to Liberia to promote the album. I'm still traveling to other countries to promote the album. And recently I just dropped the video. That's the video, Verified, featuring Mayor of the album too. And also, I recently just performed for the Recording Academy as the Grammy Awards. I just put it out 2 days ago. So it's been music for me. It's been wonderful. It's been a wonderful journey.
We'll come to the press play at home bit in a bit, but I'm curious. Verified is essentially talking about social media. What is the inspiration?
Okay, so for me, I created the song Verified in 2019, and that was even before all the fame. That was before Big Brother. That was before I became a very popular person. But I kind of just had the sense that, I was projecting a whole lot of positive thoughts into my life and in my mind. But basically, still goes to the fact that social media isn't actually real life. I said that in the song, social media isn't real life. The real place where everybody should actually target being verified is in real life. Like your lifestyle should be verified, your mentality should be verified, your finances should be verified, basically. I mean, social media is there, it's cool, but in real life, that's where the verification is actually needed. And it's from you, first of all. But I just kind of put that in the song that, yeah, even if I really know that these things are the most important things, even on social media where people regard, I'm still verified. So that's the motive behind the song, really.
Okay. Now, Laycon, how much do you think that being a part of Big Brother has helped you in your career as a singer, as a rapper, as a songwriter?
I mean, it has helped me immensely, because I remember before I went to the house, nobody knew who I was. I put out an EP, and it was because of the EP that I went into the Big Brother house. I went there to promote the music. I went there to promote my EP, and off the show, I got a lot of fans that listen to my music, that stream my music, that talk about my music, that represent my music and push my music to the world at large. So I feel like, yeah, it has really influenced it positively on a large scale. I mean, yeah, the music is great, but I needed a crowd, and the platform, the Big Brother platform, gave me that crowd.
How did you feel when, I mean, you've answered this question variously, but given the shock, because I was shocked, how did you feel when you came out of the house and recognized not just the number of people, but the caliber of people that were rooting for you?
I mean, I was surprised, obviously. At first, I was surprised, and I was grateful also at the same time. Because, truthfully, I went into the house just to promote my music. So I was expecting myself to not be there for more than 2 weeks or 3 at most. So, I mean, when I came out, when I got on the stage and they were about to announce the winners, I'm like, okay, yeah, you can just call the winner. Me, I'm good with second place. Cool. I will move on with my life and continue pushing my music. I mean, it's a big deal that I got to this point. So let's move forward, that kind of thing. But when I won, that was a huge surprise. Oh, I thank God. Then it's not that I just won. I saw all the numbers, and then they started releasing the polls from the first week and everything. It was just massive, and it was crazy. And I'm just like, wow, this is mad. And at that point, I was just like, I'm not going to let any of these people down. Anybody who was actually spend that time and energy and effort in supporting me up to this point, I'm going to keep making sure that I work harder to keep making them proud. That's just it. I'm making myself proud also. That's very important. So I'm working hard for myself and also for the people who supported me.
Just before this session we're having with you, we spoke about the challenges that youth go through in Nigeria, the kind of pressures that confront them. How did you have to deal with those pressures?
I mean, pressure being a youth in Nigeria. Pressure of being a youth in Nigeria, it's actually, I feel everybody experiences it, to be honest. Everybody experiences it. But I would say the pressure is coming from the society itself, first off. What importance has been built upon, like, let's say, people pay more attention to how much you have, what can you do for them, or who you are in the society, rather than who you are as a person or what they can do for you. That kind of thing. I feel like the society plays emphasis and has given too much power to financial power and the status in the society. So that kind of also gives you the idea that it's not only the youth that are under pressure to actually get forward in life. Everybody living in this society are actually under pressure to get forward, because they feel like all these other people are doing this, and if you're not doing this in the society, people won't regard you. So for me, really, I wouldn't say I felt any pressure. For me, as long as I was comfortable with what I was doing and I was confident in where I was going, I was really 100% just saying, yeah, this is what I want to do and this is how I'm going to do it. I mean, yeah, the society actually makes things hard. I'm not going to lie. I mean, in 2018, I got scholarship. I got the opportunity to go study in Kew University, Newcastle, through a Commonwealth shared scholarship. And the reason I couldn't get that scholarship, I was shortlisted as one of the top people, but the reason I couldn't go was because NASU was on strike. NASU, not even ASU, NASU was on strike, so they couldn't process my transcript in time. And that's a youth was dedicated his time to study to make sure that he's qualified to be able to get a scholarship on his own. And still, the system that kind of just messes it up for you. So I mean, there's that part there, but it's just, you just really have to just move on and try and say, if I want to see this change in this society so that another person doesn't experience that kind of thing that I experienced, then I need to work hard to get to a space where I will be the one to help these people grow, that kind of thing.
I'm just wondering how many other hundreds of thousands, if not millions of young people went through that kind of situation you went through one way or another. Your vision or dream.
You see the lot. Yeah, you see the lot. I mean, I've seen, while I was in school, I've seen people come and they were crying that, why is NASU on strike? That they need to travel to school tomorrow or something and they need the transcript. But they were not able to get it and they missed that opportunity. I mean, it's something that I've seen a lot, actually, while I was in school.
Very, very touching. All right, so your music, you are one of the artists featured on Press Play at Home. I saw two variants of that song. What's the song now? All for Me?
All Over Me.
All Over Me, yeah. Curiously, I didn't even know you were going to be our guest this morning. I just found myself playing various, videos of your songs yesterday. Now, first of all, why did you have to do two versions of that same song on Press Play at Home?
No, I mean, it wasn't two versions, it was just one version. It was just that we had done it before, and we just felt like, okay, let's just redo a newer version.
Remix?
Not even a remix. That's not the real song. That was an acoustic version of the song.
Okay.
So now that song is off my Shall We Begin album. If you check out the Shall We Begin album, you find the original song. But we just we made the song, the acoustic version of the song was what we actually put. Now this, there was the first one that we did. That one was for a radio session that we do normally. And so I just said, okay, let me still do this same type of thing for the Recording Academy. So the song is actually a song off my album. So it's not like,
the reason I say that, because I mean, there is a groove version and there is that acoustic version, and it's actually quite what we'll call in broadcasting easy listening, and it's quite nice. How does it feel to be on that list of Grammys?
I mean, it's a big deal. I'm not even going to try and be modest about this or try and downplay it. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal to me. And I mean, yesterday it was just sinking in. I mean, they put it out 2 days ago when I saw reactions, and I'm like, hey, wow, this is wonderful. I'm grateful and all that. And it's a result of our work and the fact that I've got fans who are dedicated and who are pushing the music, my label, my team. But then I still just thought about it yesterday. I looked at how far I've come in a year. And it just sank in that this is a huge deal. This is the Grammys I'm talking about, for Christ's sake. And it's not like that's where people want to be. Yeah. And I'm just, it's not even up to a year. And there's bigger things to come, but I appreciate this a lot. I'm grateful for it. And it means a lot to me. The price just went up. My price just went up. And then again, there's something very particular about it. It's the fact that I've always been saying that I do Afro rap. Yeah, because when people ask me, what kind of music do you make? I rap, I sing. But I try to fuse these two music. Like I fuse rap into African sounds in a way that it makes it appealing to people who listen to it. So you hear me rap, I don't just rap like a normal, ordinary rapper. I rap about things Afrocentric that you will be able to relate to and you can dialogue about in your own experience. So it's that easy. So I say that's Afro rap. And I just put it up to them, to the Recording Academy, and they certified it. They're like, yeah, he's an Afro rap artist. So that's a subgenre that has just been. I don't really know, man. If Grammy says,
all right,
yeah, Grammy says you do a type of genre, that means that genre has been certified. I don't really care where. So I'm like, yeah.
Okay. All right, Laycon. Laycon. What did you study? I understand you went to University of Lagos, right?
Yeah.
What did you study?
I studied philosophy. Okay. I took minor courses in history and strategic studies.
Okay. Quick one before we go, Laycon. You are doing what D'banj did. It's Don Jazzy again. Every song of yours starts, or almost every song of yours starts with Connie, sir. Who is Connie?
Yeah, that's me. That's Connie. Connie.
Oh, like, Connie.
Yeah. No, Connie. Not Connie. Connie. Like from the CON of the Laycon.
At the end of
I'm sorry. I thought it was your producer or something.
Okay. What did you say? No, it's not my producer. Okay. That's me.
Laycon.
That is a nickname that the girls gave to me.
Laycon, finally, I'm sure you are aware that almost every young lad, young lady out there wants to be a big musician, wants to be a success story in music. Now look at them directly and give them a few words of advice in closing.
Okay, very importantly, first off, you need to be yourself, retain your own originality. So if you're listening to me right now, you hope to one day be a star, you want to actually be a star. You can't do it without hard work. You need to work hard. You need to keep improving yourself. See, there's one thing that makes me, you, Beyonce, Jay-Z, think of any artist ever in this, the most biggest artist ever. There's one thing that makes us the same, and that is we record in the studio. Yeah, we use mic to record songs. We go through that process of cracking our brain for the best rhythm, the best melody. So this process, you can never ever exempt it from your life as an artist. You need to keep doing this hard work time and time again. And trust me, you don't know, it's just going to happen. And be prayerful too. Be prayerful, very prayerful.
All right, Laycon. Real name Olamilekan Moshood Agbileshi, winner of Big Brother Niger Season 5. Thank you very much for being our Artist of the Week, and good luck. All the best in the future. And thank you. Laycon draws a curtain.
Connie, sir.
Draws the curtain on today's sunrise. We'll be back with a fresh edition next week. I'm Alera Edu, wishing you all the best through this weekend and through next week. Bye.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend.